Good morning, and thank you for listening to Operation Agency Freedom, where we are bringing you top secret advice from the world's most badass digital agency owners. These amazing men and women are sharing their stories of how they have built 6, 7, and 8-figure digital agencies and how you can too. My name is Chris Martinez, CEO of Dude, where we help digital agencies by giving them the people and the processes so that they can scale profitably. And today I am very excited because it is a rare opportunity that I get to have somebody on the show that has actually sold me something that I have purchased. One, because I usually don't buy a lot of stuff, but two, because this is just, I'm super excited to have Benton Crane on here today, the CEO of Harmon Brothers. You might not have heard of Harmon Brothers, but they are the ones, the masterminds behind the ads for Squatty Potty, Poopery, the purple mattress, all these like internet sensations, like the viral videos. Benton Crane and his team at Harmon Brothers, they are the masterminds behind that. So welcome to the show, Benton.
Hi, thank you. Excited to be here.
Awesome, man. And you're, I think you're calling in from, is it Utah?
Yep, little old Provo, Utah.
Awesome. There's a big entrepreneurial community out of Utah. I didn't know about it until recently.
Both the startup scene and the tech scene are really booming here in Utah. Even a lot of Silicon Valley, big dogs like Adobe and Facebook are setting up shop here in Utah because we just have a really great pool of talent here.
That's awesome. Well, we're definitely going to talk about that when we actually get into the Harmon Brothers story and how you got linked up with them, because there are actually two Harmon Brothers, right?
There's actually several Harmon brothers.
Oh, okay.
There's 6 in total, but let's see, I guess 4 of them are involved here with our agency.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to talk about that in a second, but we start off every show with a little roundtable discussion.
Let's do it.
It's a topic that I really am excited to hear your take on this. It's being a paperboy as a kid. Because as we were talking about right before we started, I don't think that kids do paper routes anymore. I think one, because it's unbelievably dangerous and like insurance companies would go nuts over this. Insurance companies and lawyers sure would go nuts. But it's probably, people don't read the paper anymore either. So tell me about your paperboy story.
Well, it's not much of a story, to be honest with you. I took a paper route when I was pretty young. I'm guessing I was probably, 9, 10 years old. And by that point in my life, I had already, experimented with selling all sorts of random crap to my neighbors, just go knock door to door.
Right.
You know how it is, a kid before he hits puberty is just so dang cute that you walk up, knock on a door, say, hey, do you want to buy this loaf of bread, or do you want to buy these potatoes, or whatever
Right.
it is. And people can't tell you no. And so I had already done that. I had kind of I guess you could call it an entrepreneurial spirit from a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And so later when I took my paper route, it was kind of like, in my eyes, I was thinking of it as like, hey, I got a real job now.
Right.
But a few months into it, I quickly saw that the money from selling stuff door to door was actually way better than a paper route. I don't remember what it was, but it seems like you get paid like $3 per route or something. You'd go out early in the morning, you'd roll your papers, take them to, I don't remember what it was, 80 or 100 different doors, get them all delivered, come home, take you about an hour and a half, and I'd get like $3 or $3.50 or something.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that the pay was about the same for me, and I was out here in Southern California, so there was no cost of living adjustment. But I was a really skinny kid, so I don't know. I was doing it about the same age as you. I think it was around 10. Really skinny, and so I couldn't pick up the papers on some days. Like Wednesdays were the heavy days, Mondays were light, and then Sundays were just like your parents.
Sundays were the worst.
Yeah, your parents had to help you. So we would basically get out of school, and this was like 4th or 5th grade. We would ride over to this woman's house. She would have all the newspapers there, and then we would just pick our spot, grab some rubber bands, and start flipping all the papers and stuffing them into this big sack. And then
do you remember how your hands would turn black from all the ink that would come off the paper onto your hands as you were rolling?
Yeah. That was great. So then, yeah, so we'd have to pick it up and put it on the bags, and I'd have to have somebody help me on the heavy days because I wasn't big enough to be able to pick up the bag of newspapers. And then the weight of the bike is now all in the front. So my bike would flip off if I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this or if you had the same.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You try to, go into someone's driveway, bumping over the little lip of the driveway. You hit that just wrong, and man, you're over the handlebars.
And then it's really, really hard to get up. So I did fall down one time, and I remember I was like crying, and I got all super frustrated. And then, yeah, I think I had about 100 stops on my little like 3-block area. And then I would wrap up, and I think I made about $60 a month. So it was like $2, and that was a 7 days a week job. And the crazy thing about it that I like looking back on it, one is that like it was so dangerous. Like I don't know how paperboys weren't getting run over on a daily basis. And maybe they were, it's just we didn't have social media or the media. Like because the newspaper was the media, they just weren't covering it, But the second thing is like that job is like a child molester's dream. I mean, you have 15 kids going over to this person's house and like in their garage every single day. There's so many like disgusting things that could happen. And then the other thing that we had to do is we had to collect. So sometimes people wouldn't pay the bill, and then they would leave it up to me, the paperboy, to go and collect the bill. Did you?
Man, no, I never had to deal with any of that. And holy smokes, Chris, this paperboy situation just turned dark in a hurry.
You never really think about it. Like when you look back, there's so many things in your childhood that are all rosy and wonderful. But there was it was pretty dangerous to be able that they let us do that. I mean, we did survive. So I think in the long run, it made us stronger.
Yeah. But, yeah. I fortunately didn't have any close shaves with death or any close shaves with molestation either. So I'll count my blessings, remembering back on my short paperboy experience as a safe one.
I remember somebody did want to steal my bike, or I thought that they were trying to steal my bike, and I got really scared. But yeah, so the craziest part was when we'd have to go collect. So I was this little 10-year-old kid, and people wouldn't pay their bill for the newspaper, which who knows how much it was. It was probably like $20 a month or something. And so they would send me to go collect from the people. And if I didn't collect, then they would take it out of my paycheck.
No way.
Yep.
Oh, that's horrible.
So, and I was terrified. I'm like knocking on the door. I remember like walking out, and I just like, screw it. They're just going to get a free month. I'll take the hit. They're not going to pay this month. It'll be fine.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. But dude, honestly, like it was a great experience. And it's funny that we get to talk about it now because kids.
Yeah, those are the experiences that shape us, right?
Yes, exactly. Kids those days, they're robbed of that opportunity.
Yeah, I only did mine for a few months, and then I went back to selling crap door to door because I could make better money.
Awesome. So let's talk about now today with Harmon Brothers. So why don't you give us, the elevator pitch for Harmon Brothers?
Yeah, so like you said, we're the agency behind, many famous campaigns that, you've probably seen online, from Squatty Potty and Poopery to Chatbooks, Fiberfix, Lumi deodorant, Purple mattresses, and several others as well. Camp Chef woodwind grills. And so from the outside looking in, people usually see all those campaigns and they say, oh, those guys are the viral video guys. So people reach out to us all the time. Hey, can you do a viral video for us? And so we kind of find ourselves often educating people that, well, actually, most of those didn't go viral at all. And the ones that did go viral, they were viral for a few days or maybe a week or whatever. And that was fun. Everyone was excited, high-fiving each other. But the reality is all of these campaigns last for weeks and weeks, months and months, sometimes even years and years. And they drive millions and millions of views, sometimes hundreds of millions of views, and millions upon millions of dollars in sales as well. And so we, instead of saying we do viral videos, instead we say, look, we blend the worlds of traditional branding, Nike, Coca-Cola, Apple, that type of branding, with the worlds of direct response, which is, infomercials, Snuggie, Slap Chop, whatever. Historically, people always thought you have to choose one or the other, right? You either live here or you live there. And if you're in the infomercial world, it's gross. It's like high pressure, call now, don't miss this, that type of thing. And then if you're in the traditional branding world, it's, I guess it's more tasteful, if you will, but then the criticism is like, well, that's not trackable, or, you're never going to see an ROI on that, or your ROI is not going to come until 18 months down the road or whatever. And we say, look, guys, scrap that idea that you have to choose one or the other. You can take the best of both of those worlds. You can build a brand that people know and love and trust, and you can drive sales at the same time. And that's our whole mantra, man, is drive sales and build a brand all at the same time. And that's been our secret to success.
Now, your history, you started off as a data nerd for the government, of all things. Yeah. And so talk about, how did you come to Harmon Brothers? What was like your journey up to, now becoming the CEO of one of the leading video marketing companies on the planet?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, like you said, I was a statistician and an econometrician. I worked at the Census Bureau. I worked at various intelligence agencies in Washington, D.C. And my partners, the ones who are actually named Harmon, they were pioneering video marketing for the web at a place called Orabrush. This is back in like 2009. YouTube had just recently been acquired by Google. It wasn't yet an ad platform. It was, just a share your cat videos platform. And they launched this tongue cleaner called Orabrush that you scrape your tongue and it gets rid of bad breath. In fact, many of your listeners probably remember seeing these Orabrush commercials that ran back in the day, because they got tens of millions of views and everything. But essentially, they were the first company that proved you can grow a business using YouTube, and that kind of pioneered this world of video marketing for the web. So when the brothers left to do the Poopery campaign, this was in 2013. They needed a data guy who could do all of the ad buying, do all of the A/B testing, all of the video optimization. And so that's where I came into the picture. I was living out in Washington, D.C. I moved my family across the country to Utah to join up with the brothers, and we launched Poopery. That was our first campaign back in 2013. And so it's kind of cool because we mixed these two worlds of creativity and art with the world of data and math. And we created this cycle where, the math and the data feed the creativity, and then the creativity feeds the data. And it's this kind of virtuous cycle that allows us to, consistently put out successful content. From the outside looking in, people are like, man, these guys just like, their track record is off the charts. They just hit after hit after hit. And without understanding what's going on behind the scenes, you might assume like, man, those guys just have the Midas touch, or man, those guys just get lucky, or whatever it is. But the reality is there's a strategy that involves dozens and dozens of tests that feed data into the creative process and inform the creative process. And so it's this beautiful loop that happens over and over and over again. And it allows us to test our way into great creative that works. And that's where the track record comes from, not from luck or just having a great touch or whatever.
Well, okay, so that first campaign that you said that you guys, that was like the winner, was the Poopery. So Did you guys have an equity in Poopery, or did they just hire you like a normal agency agreement?
No, they just hired us. So that was kind of a quick little 6-month contract.
Okay.
So that one was super successful. We took them from, I think if I remember correctly, they would have done about $7 million in 2013 without us. launched our campaign in August. And so from August through December, instead of hitting the $7 million mark for the 2013, I think they hit about 18 million. And then the next year they hit like 30 million or something like that. And they continued to use the ad over the years, even after we parted ways. And Forbes actually just did a report on them just a few weeks ago, that said they're expected to hit $100 million this year. So,
that's crazy.
Wildly successful for them.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Dollar Shave Club and Poopery. Those are probably some of the most memorable video campaigns ever. So
those were right around the same era.
Right. So you were talking about how data then drives content. So can you walk us through that creative process with Poopery? So like, was there a script and then you guys like launch video content and then you analyze the data and go back and then redo the videos again? Like what does that work?
Great question. So first and foremost, they came to us already having a great product and a love group who loved their product.
Yes.
The interesting thing was their love group who loved their product loved it secretly. Like this was a type of product that a customer would buy, keep it in their purse, hide it in the bathroom cabinet, because by all means, you don't want to have a conversation about that, right? It's this a toilet spray that you spray, before you go. And nobody wants to talk about that. Like that's awkward. And
that is actually a very American thing, just so you know.
Is it? Yeah. Well, be it as it was a very, very awkward thing where they knew they had these customers who loved them, but they couldn't get the customers to admit to their friends that they loved them. And so that's where we came in and said, look, how do we make this really awkward subject not awkward? How do we make it safe to talk about? And so that's where the concept of, the British, the proper aristocratic British woman on the toilet came from, because we're like, okay, who is the last person on earth who you would expect to say, these potty humor jokes and everything? And if we could make it safe for her to say it, then all of a sudden it should become safe for you and I to talk about the same things. And so that's where the concept came from. Proper British woman, she's on a toilet in all these different situations. And then she's, the script that she's saying is this very, joke dense, every poop joke that we could come up with, or not every joke we came up with, the tons made it into, the script, where we're essentially, presenting the problem, showing a solution, building credibility, all of that stuff, so that we can, convince viewers to make the purchase. So your question about how we tested our way into that. So it's interesting because on any one of those campaigns, so let's use Poopery for example, we will write a dozen different titles for the campaign. We'll shoot a dozen different thumbnail images for it. We'll do half a dozen different intros to the video. We'll do a half a dozen different calls to action for the video. So we write them, we script them, we film them, and edit them, take it all the way through to final. So you end up with literally dozens of different variations of what this video can be. And so then you can test all the different versions of the video to find out which one performs at the best levels. And so that's, in a nutshell, that's kind of how the testing process works. Gotcha.
So is there a metric that you're looking for when you finally decide, hey, this is the winner? I mean, obviously the end result is sales. So if you're tying it directly to an online purchase, then that's an easy one. But, is there something else that you guys are looking for that helps you decide, okay, of the 12, this is the headline. Of the 12, this is the call to action. Of the 12, this is the whatever.
Right. So that totally depends on the test that you're running. So, and also what product you're running it on. So let me give you a quick example.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Before we launch the campaign and we test titles and thumbnails, we're usually doing that, just a few days before we want to launch. And And so to get statistical significance on an A/B test, you can get it much quicker if you're going for click-through rate, for instance, as opposed to taking it all the way through to conversions. And so, well, you could make the argument that, the best test is to test it all the way through to conversions. But when you're balancing that with time and the cost of testing, sometimes you use proxies instead of conversions. So for instance, titles and thumbnails, we're just looking at a click-through rate test.
Okay.
And so we can get that data quick, you can get it cheap, and then you can move on to the next test. Another example, when we're version testing video A versus video B on a product like Poopery that, starts at, 10, 15 bucks, average order value, probably around 30 bucks or whatever. You can test through to conversion relatively quickly because that's a low cost purchase that happens quite quickly versus, something like when we did Purple Mattress, they're selling $1,000 plus mattress and that's a much bigger purchase. And so the purchases don't come in nearly as quick or nearly as often. And you also have to spend a lot more on ads to get those purchases. And so sometimes when you're testing a high dollar product like that, instead of running the test on conversions because it takes a long time and costs a lot of money to get that data, instead sometimes you can use a proxy like add to carts, for instance. And so you can run, if you're testing variation A versus variation B, you make the metric add to cart and you see which version drives a better add to cart rate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally makes sense. So let me ask you this question. When you guys were building the Poopery campaign, how long did it take from the day that you guys walked in the doors of Poopery till when you had that video that became that sensation?
That one was an anomaly. We did that video start to finish in 3 weeks.
Okay.
Which is not normal. That we had to call in every favor and work, pretty much 16 to 20 hour days straight through those 3 weeks, and burn out all of our contractors and talent and everything like that.
Right.
That was not a sustainable rate. But that one was super fast. It was a 3 week turnaround.
And is that just the shooting, or are you talking about the testing as well?
I'm talking about from signing a contract and saying, let's do this, through writing a script, doing all the pre-production, shooting it, doing all the post-production, and then launching the video and starting the testing process. So the testing process goes on for weeks and months. But I'm talking about actually getting that video from let's do this all the way through to we have a live video out there in the wild that's driving sales.
Okay. So I'll tell you where I'm going with this, but basically, so it took about 3 weeks to shoot it. And then the testing phase, that was another, like 3 months, 4 months?
Honestly, the testing phase never ends.
Okay.
So we were involved for 6 months.
6 months. Okay.
And so, we launched in August and we were still testing all the way through until January when our contract with Poopery ended.
Got it.
And I don't know if they continued to do testing, beyond that, but I know they continued to run the ads that we made for them for several years after that.
Gotcha. The reason I bring this up is that I know that there are agency owners out there, and they're going to get somebody who comes to them and then they say, oh, well, I want something like Poopery. And like you mentioned earlier, on the outside, it looks like it was an overnight sensation. You're like, oh yeah, they just shot these, one take, basically, they had all the shots lined up, one take, and then this thing just explodes. And what you're saying is that the reality is that it was a ton of work, a ton of research, a ton of testing, lots of different variables or variations of the video content, that eventually, after 6 months' time, produced this video that ended up, going viral. So like the agency owner, when I want to use the story for is to show agency owners how they can say, okay, if somebody approaches you and says, I want a viral sensation, you're like, the reality is that there is no viral sensation, or it's very, very rare. There's a process that you follow that takes months. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yes, that's a very accurate statement. But let me back up just a little bit, because there are some partial truths
Yep.
around the whole, virality argument. So it's interesting that we're talking about Poopery, because Poopery is one of our few campaigns that actually did go, quote,
Viral.
viral,
Yeah.
right? So we were actually in the middle of testing several variations. And if my memory serves me correct, I think it was Mashable picked up on one of our variations. It wasn't even a public video. It was unlisted on YouTube, because we were just trying to do some testing behind the scenes. And they picked up on that unlisted video, put a link in their story, and published it. And so all of a sudden we went from like, hey, we're just trying to test behind the scenes, to all of a sudden one of these variations is out in the wild. And for about a week, maybe 10 days or so, it went truly viral, where it just took off on its own, racked up a few million views.
Wow.
And but here's what I really want to emphasize. In those few million views, yes, Poopery had some sales driven during those few million views, but in comparison to the next 6 months where we drove tens of millions of views, I think that campaign in its different forms and different variations, if I'm not mistaken, is somewhere around the neighborhood of like 200 million views now.
Wow.
And so the reality is that probably like, 5 to 8, maybe 10 million of those views came from, quote, virality.
Mm-hmm.
And the other, 190 or 195 million views came from this strategy of, you have a campaign that drives sales, so you can put $1 in advertising and get back $1.50 in revenue, and then you can, churn that over and over again for weeks and months and years. And so, well, yes, Poopery went, quote unquote, viral. That virality is such a small piece of its overall success. And then you can like contrast that to Purple, for instance. Purple didn't go viral at all.
Yeah.
If we had just put that video out there and left it, it probably would have racked up like 10,000 views or something like that. Ooh, whoop-de-doo, but now that video in all of its different forms has over 500 million views.
Wow.
Because it was an ad that drove sales. And so when it comes to this whole conversation around virality, we always tell our clients, let's make it so good that it doesn't have to go viral. Because virality, first off, is unpredictable. There's no recipe that can give you virality. And when you are lucky enough to have it actually happen and go viral, it's usually so fast and such a, it's just a crazy storm when it happens, that companies usually can't even react quick enough to take advantage of any of that virality anyways. So that's kind of my rant on virality. Yes, it can happen. When it does, cool, give each other high fives, but don't plan on it. Don't bank on it. Make your stuff so good that it doesn't need to go viral.
I love that, because in our society, everybody wants the instant gratification, and viral videos are, the marketing equivalent of instant gratification. But what you're really saying is that, hey, you got to put in the work. There's no substitute for putting in the hard work and actually doing the not so sexy stuff to end up getting the results that you're looking for. So
That's right.
That's great, man. Well, we're just about out of time. What is the best way for people to reach out to you? And I know that you guys have a course. I don't know if it's specifically for agencies or for anybody, but what's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
That's a great question. So I'm most active on LinkedIn. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Benton Crane. And then as far as like agencies wanting to learn how to do what we do, HarmonBrothersUniversity.com is the way to reach out to us. We have several different courses that do everything from, train people on how to write video scripts that sell, how to produce and edit videos for a sales focus. And then we even have a course on how to build humor into your advertising. People see our work and they love all the humor in there. And so initially people are like, man, how do I make my stuff funny? And the reality is that it's so much easier to teach a comedian how to be a great advertiser than it is to teach an advertiser how to be funny. Like, comedians take years and years and years to hone their craft. And so if you're an advertiser and you're like, man, I want to make this ad funny, I want to punch this script up or whatever, like, just go hire a comedian who has been trained on how to apply those comedic skills. And so that's what we go into in our How to Make Your Ads Funny course. So anyways, those are all things that you can check out at harmonbrothersuniversity.com. All great resources.
Awesome. And who would be the perfect person to reach out to you today?
So two camps, right? So there are writers and comedians and filmmakers who are all wanting to pursue their dreams, but they feel like they're stuck between this world of, I either have to, be a starving artist, or I have to sell my soul to corporate America and go get a 9-to-5 job in a cubicle that makes me want to gouge my eyes out, right? Those are like the two crappy choices that artists face, right? Writers, comedians, and filmmakers. And what I want to help that group understand is that there's so much opportunity to pursue your passion, hone your craft, live your dreams, and still make a good living at the same time. And the world of advertising provides that opportunity. Like, there is so much demand for great comedians, great writers, great filmmakers to come into the world of advertising, hone your craft there, hone your skills, and eventually you can make it to whatever your dream is. Whether for a comedian, it's, getting your Netflix special, or, for the filmmakers, it's, going down to Hollywood and making a feature film or whatever it is. Like, those become real possibilities when you can find a way to make a great living while you hone your craft and live your dreams. And so for that group, I'm always like, man, that group needs to come into the world of advertising. Let us show you how to sell. Let us show you how to make great ads. Harmon Brothers University, once again, for that group. And then for the other group, it's, entrepreneurs and marketers who want help, making great campaigns. HarmonBrothers.com is for that group. That's who should be reaching out to us. And we have all sorts of ways and different approaches on the different campaigns that we can do to help entrepreneurs and marketers. So those are kind of the two groups.
Awesome, man. Benton, thanks so much for spending the time and jumping on our show. We really appreciate you being on the show and all the information, the knowledge that you've dropped on us today.
Hey, pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right. And to all of our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in today, and make sure you return next Thursday and every Thursday for the next episode of Operation Agency Freedom. Bye, guys.